Hey, how's it going? My name is Jerome. I'm here at Body Club to do a postural assessment and correction program for you guys at home. So obviously, you know, being in lockdown, a lot of us are at home living a sedentary lifestyle. So, you know, it's changing our posture. So I'm just trying to here to correct that and open things back up again. Hope you enjoy. So here I'm going to be using Aaron as my body double. I will be explaining what we're going to be doing, but all these things you'll be able to do at home independently as we go through the body. It's going to be a full body workout essentially, because it's going to change how you move, trying to build up some mind muscle connection and some glute activation along with working your lower abdomen. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to assess Aaron's posture. So we've got Aaron standing with his back on the wall here. From here I can see he's got slight forward head carriage as I'm able to pass my hand through the back of his head. So his head is not touching the wall. So it means from the side profile, he is in that position. So his head is now slightly forward. His ears are not in line with his shoulders, which would be that. So if you're standing on the wall and your head is slightly forward, it means you do have some slight forward head carriage. With that, you might get some humeral rotation, which means forward rolling in the shoulder. So the back of your shoulders are not touching the wall, as we can see here and here, as I can pass my fingers through the back. Also, Aaron, if you could just place this hand on that shoulder for me, please. And there is also a little gap through the lower back, so there is a slight lordotic curve here where his bum is on the wall. I can pass my hand through and then through his mid and upper traps that is against the wall. So what we need to try and do, you can bring that arm back down for me. We need to try and get the shoulders, head and lower back all on the wall to ensure that he has a full upright posture and he's not hunched over. Okay, so to do that, what we'll do is we'll start at his hips. So all you need to do is to place your hands on your hips using your thumb and index finger. If you just cradle your hip for me. So you want your thumb behind, index finger holding on to the bony part of the spine. Yep. So here you can feel that your index finger is now lower than your thumb. Yeah. So that just confirms that you have an anterior tilt in your pelvis. So his pelvis is dipping down, pointing diagonally down to the floor, not perpendicular and straight ahead. Okay, so what I want you to do, you're going to use the muscles in your lower abdomen and in your bum. You're going to squeeze your bottom and pull up with the lower abdomen to try and bring your index finger more in line with your thumb. That's it. So there's a slight little bend in the knee there. Try and keep your knee straight. That looks better. So here we can see that the hip is now lifted. And if you just bring your hands down by your side, maintain that for me. But relax. I can no longer pass my fingers through the spool of his back because he's now lifted his hip and his lower back is now pushed in more to the wall. So we have a straight line coming down here, but obviously we still have the rotation through the front part of the shoulders, so he's humerally rotated. So what I'd like you to do is if you just take a deep breath in for me, expand the rib cage. That will elevate the rib cage, it will widen the shoulders. What I'd like you to do is just to turn your palms out for me. So here what we're doing is we're rotating through the shoulder blade and rotator cuff, just opening the shoulder out. And then what we're going to do, we're going to use the back, the upper traps and the mid trap to squeeze your shoulder blades back. So you're going to try and bring your shoulder blades back to the wall, but keep, see here, you've lost that. Keep the hips lifted, pushed in whilst you open up, squeezing your shoulder blades together. So if you imagine you're trying to pinch a pencil in between the muscles in your back, that will bring you from this position into that. So we've got our arms open just to help stretch through the pectorals, because you have tight pec minor, which will also bring your shoulder in. Okay, so here you probably feel a bit stiff. Breathe, don't hold your breath, breathe. So what I want you to do now, from your elbow, just relax. So what we're going to do from this position, you're going to feel a little bit like a robot. So, but you know, we're going to need to try and maintain this as often as possible. We're going to also have a look at his gait. So that's how he walks. Because obviously a lot of people, when they're walking, their head tends to lead and their body kind of tends to follow. So we're going to have a look at that now. So if you just stand here for me, please. Just come off the wall. What I want you to do is just forget what I've told you and just relax. So you can just jog it out, shake it out a little bit. And then from the plant just to those yoga mats, just walk up and back twice, please. As you would normally. And back. You walk so stiff, relax. And again.
I think a saunter is what I'd normally call what I do.
And last time. It's actually not too bad, but where he's walking, so if we come back just here. So we can see when he's walking, there's a little lift in the foot, so there was just a few scuffs. So it means that he's not using his glutes and or his hip flexors when moving, so he's just kind of swinging his, obviously it's not to this degree, but he's kind of swinging his hip in order to get his leg in front. He's not typically lifting his leg up. So if you think of athletics, when you watch the 100 meters, athletes are very upright and they're driving the knee up, and that roughly is how they're running. If you look at the general pop, nobody runs very upright. It's usually head forward and then the shorter steps more through the hamstring, not a lot going on through the glute and the hip flexor. So we're going to try and engage that whilst we're walking. So if we come back to here, what I want you to do is just get back into the upright postural position that we mastered on the wall. So hands on the hips, lift the hips up, pull up through the abdomen, breathe in, expand the rib cage. We're going to roll the shoulders back, open up, and bring the head back. So now when we're walking, you're going to feel your lower abdomen moving more, and we're going to feel something on the hip flexors. So as you walk, what I want you to do is you're going to be, imagine you've got a belt and you're being pulled forward by your belt. So it's driven through the hip, not with your head slightly forward, carrying your body. So. And come back for me. And one more time. Okay. So with this walk, what we're looking for is there's still going to be movement in the hip, but it's not going to be as rocky as before, because we're using the muscles here which are going to bring the leg up. So it's, there's obviously still going to be 3D movement, but you're kind of leading through the knee as you step. But what I want you to do when you step, you're going to drive your knee up, purposely just place your heel, then I want you to shift your weight forward from your heel onto the mid and ball of the foot. So you're going to use your hips to help glide you forward. So you can think of more of a gliding movement, not just lifting and pushing off from the toes. It's going to be more of a pull from the hip. Yeah? And just one more time for me. So with that, you should feel more of your bum working. So your glutes are going to be used to stabilize your hips, keeping your hips in that position. You're going to be using your hip flexors to lift the leg, and then your glute to lower down, being pulled through the hip it means that your weight is being evenly propelled forward. So, you know, if you're walking, you might find you step and then you might hear like a heavy step, which is just a foot drop. So it means that there's actually no control. You're not controlling your leg down. You're just allowing gravity to do its job. And then you walk, can't really hear it here, but you know, you get heavy-footed people. It's because they're not using their glutes, so there's weakness in the glutes. It could just be general weakness throughout the lower body, and they're just swinging to get from A to B. And you can find people that walk very much through the hips. So we want to try and keep everything as linear as possible. And then the weight stays over your hips, because with the forward head carriage, it's like if you think of children when they run, young children, they run with the head forward and the body kind of follows. So that being in that position was what leads to then would be what they call being hunched back. So, you know, you see some old people and they're in that type of position because, you know, your head, you have the forward head carriage, your head comes forward, puts a lot of strain on the neck, so your shoulders then humanly rotate to try and support the head, so it's less stress through your traps, so the muscles that are coming up into the neck, and then that becomes tight, so your head comes forward even further, and you just end up following until you're in, you know, that kind of position, because everything just gets tighter and tighter, and you know, you don't really do much to correct that. So when you are walking, you just want to try and be aware of not striking the floor. It is just a gentle place, and hips being pushed forward. So again, it does feel like a little gentle glide. And if you find your foot scuffing the floor, it means you're not lifting. You are just probably swinging, or you've got a very shallow step. You're trying to use the muscles, even you can use your quads as well, just to lift, and then the glutes to try and control to lower. So it shouldn't be much sound in your step. And then you'll naturally notice as you push your weight from the hips over that foot, your back foot will naturally bend. You'll get a natural knee bend. If your glutes involved, just use the hip flexor and repeat. So even if you're running in this motion, it will help propel you a little bit faster, hopefully. Don't know if you can do the 100 meters, but it should generally help.
Yeah, it felt completely different when I was walking. I could actually feel my lower abdomen
working,
like engaging when I was walking.
So just in general, this will help give you the appearance of a flatter stomach because your muscles aren't relaxing out. They're drawn in and engaged. And for the ladies, it will essentially give you the appearance of a more perky posterior because all these muscles are engaged. But you should be using your glutes throughout any leg movement. You should always feel something in either your mid glute or your glute max. As long as your legs are moving, your glutes are involved. So you also probably want to look at your footwear as well. But you know, we're not going to get into footwear today, but typically barefoot or in your socks or something, then that's no problem. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.